I am Amanda, 35 years old, and mother to the sweetest 10-year-old twins, Jack and Emma. After my divorce 2 years ago, we moved in with my parents, which seemed like a blessing at first. Working 12-hour shifts as a pediatric nurse meant I needed help, and they offered. My relationship with them had always been complicated, but I tried to make it work. Then my brother Stephen and his wife Melissa had their baby boy, and suddenly my kids became invisible. I never imagined my own parents would betray us so completely. If you are enjoying this story, drop a comment about where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button to join our storytelling family for more real-life drama. When my husband David and I split up after 12 years of marriage, I was devastated. Not just emotionally, but financially. We had built our life around his income as a software engineer, while I worked part-time as a nurse to accommodate raising our twins. The divorce left me with shared custody, minimal alimony, and the sudden need to work full-time to support myself and my children. My parents, Martha and Richard, offered their home as a temporary solution. "Just until you get back on your feet," my father had said, with a pat on my shoulder. I was grateful, despite our complicated history. Growing up, I had always been the responsible one, the one who followed rules and met expectations, while my younger brother Stephen was the golden child who could do no wrong. I spent 8 years putting myself through nursing school specializing in pediatrics because I loved working with children. My path was not flashy but steady. Stephen, on the other hand, dropped out of college, started a tech business that my parents funded, and was now making 6 figures at 32. The pattern of favoritism was so deeply ingrained that I hardly noticed it anymore. Jack and Emma were wonderful kids, each with their own distinct personality. Jack was the creative one, always drawing or building something with a sensitivity that sometimes made life challenging for him. Emma was my little athlete, an advocate, outspoken and confident, the first to stand up when she saw something unfair. They were both doing well in school despite the upheaval of the divorce and move. Our initial arrangement with my parents seemed positive. They converted their home office into a bedroom for the twins, and I took the guest room. I contributed to groceries, did most of the cooking, and made sure the kids were respectful of their grandparents' space and routines. I worked 12-hour shifts at the children's hospital, sometimes overnight, which meant my parents helped with school drop-offs and pickups when needed. The plan was to save enough for a security deposit and first month's rent on our own place within a year. I was careful with money, taking extra shifts when possible and putting aside as much as I could. The housing market in our area was expensive, but I was determined to give my children stability again. Then Stephen and Melissa had their baby little Ethan, and everything changed. My parents had always favored Stephen, but their reaction to his baby was something else entirely. They transformed the formal dining room into a nursery, despite the fact that Stephen and Melissa had their own 4-bedroom house across town. They bought expensive baby equipment that would only be used during visits. My mother started canceling plans to help with my kids if Stephen needed anything at all. "Your brother needs more support right now," she would say. "He is new to parenting." The irony that I had been a single parent for 2 years somehow escaped her. At first, I tried to be understanding. New babies are exciting, and this was their first grandson. Jack and Emma had been their only grandchildren for 10 years, so perhaps they were just enjoying the novelty. I encouraged my kids to be patient and kind, explaining that little Ethan needed extra attention because he was so small. The favoritism was subtle at first. Christmas gifts that were noticeably more expensive for Ethan than for my children. Comments about how Ethan looked just like Stephen did as a baby, while Jack and Emma had always been said to resemble their father more than me. Small things, but they accumulated. I tried to compensate by creating special time just for us. We would go to the park on my days off, or have movie nights in my bedroom. I started a savings chart on my bathroom wall where the kids could see our progress toward getting our own place. Just a few more months, I would promise them. We will have our own home by Christmas. But as spring turned to summer, the tension in the house grew. My parents became increasingly critical of my parenting decisions, from what I fed the twins to their bedtimes, to how much screen time they were allowed. Meanwhile, Stephen and Melissa could do no wrong with Ethan, even when they would show up hours late for family dinner or cancel plans at the last minute. I was walking a tightrope trying to shield my children from the reality that their grandparents were treating them differently, while also trying to maintain a peaceful household. I needed my parents' help after all. I could not afford childcare on top of saving for our move. By the end of summer, my savings account was growing steadily. I had calculated that by November, I would have enough for a modest two-bedroom apartment. Just 3 more months of patience, I told myself. 3 more months of biting my tongue and reminding my children that we were guests in their grandparents' home. 3 more months of watching my parents dote on Ethan while barely acknowledging Jack and Emma's achievements. I had no idea how much worse things would get before those 3 months were up. The situation escalated dramatically in September, when Stephen called a family meeting. He and Melissa sat at my parents' kitchen table with baby Ethan, dressed in an outfit that probably cost more than my entire weekly grocery budget. "We have got some exciting news," Stephen announced, looking at our parents rather than at me. "We are finally doing that major renovation on our house, the one we have been talking about for ages." My mother clasped her hands together. "That is wonderful, sweetie." "The thing is," Melissa continued, bouncing Ethan on her knee, "we will need somewhere to stay during the construction. It should only be about 6 to 8 weeks. Before I could even process what was happening, my father was nodding enthusiastically. "You will stay here, of course. We have plenty of room." I cleared my throat. "Actually, we are a bit tight on space already with the 5 of us." I gestured to myself, the twins, and my parents. My mother shot me a look. "Family helps family, Amanda. It is only temporary." And just like that, the decision was made. No one asked how I felt about it. No one considered what this would mean for Jack and Emma. No one acknowledged that I had been told the same thing about our temporary stay, which was now approaching the 2-year mark. Stephen and Melissa moved in the following weekend. My father helped them set up a portable crib in their room for Ethan, though he had never once offered to help assemble the twins' beds when we moved in. My mother cleared out an entire closet for Melissa's clothes, while my things had remained in suitcases for months before I eventually bought a small dresser for myself. The changes were immediate and jarring. Suddenly, Jack and Emma were told to keep their voices down throughout the day because Ethan is napping. Their toys, which had been limited to their bedroom and a small corner of the living room, were now considered clutter and repeatedly put away in boxes. The television, which they had been allowed to watch for an hour after school, was now perpetually tuned to the shows Melissa wanted to watch. When I came home from a long shift one evening, I found Emma sitting on the back porch alone and upset. "What is wrong, honey?" I asked, sitting beside her. "Grandma said I was being too loud with my jump rope in the backyard," she sniffled. But Ethan was not even sleeping. He was in the living room with Aunt Melissa. She just did not want to hear me counting my jumps. That same week, Jack came home from school, excited about an art project he had been working on. He had been selected to represent his class in a district-wide exhibition. When he tried to show my mother, she waved him away. "Not now, Jack. I am helping Melissa pick out new curtains for their house." I watched my son's face fall, and something inside me hardened. That night, after the kids were asleep, I tried to have a conversation with my parents. "I understand that Stephen and his family need help right now. I began carefully, but I am concerned about how Jack and Emma are being treated. They feel like they are not important anymore. My father frowned. They are being oversensitive. Kids need to learn that babies require more attention. Ethan is not even here most of the day, I pointed out. Stephen takes him to daycare before he goes to work, and Melissa picks him up on her way home. Jack and Emma are not asking for attention during those hours. My mother sighed dramatically. You always were jealous of your brother Amanda. I thought you would have outgrown that by now. I was stunned into silence. Was that really how they saw me? As a jealous sibling, rather than a concerned mother? The situations continued to worsen. Melissa began rearranging items in the kitchen without asking, complaining about the healthy snacks I bought for the twins, and leaving her laundry in the machine for days. Stephen acted as if he owned the house, inviting friends over for watch parties without checking if anyone else had plans to use the living room. One evening, I overheard Stephen and my father discussing financial matters. We might need to extend the renovation timeline, Stephen was saying. The contractor found some issues with the foundation. Stay as long as you need, my father replied. This is your home too. I thought about how I had never been told that despite contributing to household expenses and doing most of the cooking and cleaning, instead I was regularly reminded that their help was temporary and conditional. The breaking point came during a Sunday dinner in early October. My mother had prepared all of Stephen's favorite foods, none of which my children particularly enjoyed. When Jack politely asked if there was anything else he could eat, my mother told him he was being ungrateful. When I was growing up, we ate what was put in front of us, she said sternly. Later in the meal, Ethan threw his entire plate on the floor, and everyone laughed indulgently. He is just exploring his world, Melissa explained, making no move to clean up the mess. The double standard was so blatant that even my usually diplomatic son noticed. How come Ethan can throw food, but I cannot ask for a sandwich, he whispered to me. I had no good answer for him. That week, I found that someone had removed Jack and Emma's artwork from the refrigerator to make room for a printout of Ethan's daycare schedule and several photos of him. When I asked about it, Melissa said she needed the information front and center and did not think anyone would mind if she rearranged a few things. The twins stopped wanting to spend time in the common areas of the house. They retreated to their small shared bedroom, where they at least had some control over their environment. I started taking them to the public library after school when I was not working, just to give them space where they were not constantly shushed or criticized. A coworker noticed my stress during a particularly difficult shift. Everything okay at home? Amanda Nancy asked, as we charted together. I found myself pouring out the whole situation. Nancy listened sympathetically before saying something that stuck with me. It sounds like your parents have created a household where your brother's family is treated as guests of honor, while you and your children are treated as inconvenient roommates, she observed. That is not a healthy environment for any of you. She was right, and hearing it said aloud made me realize how normalized the dysfunctional dynamic had become. That evening, instead of going straight home after my shift, I drove around the neighborhood and called a realtor friend of mine. I need to get my kids out of this situation, I told her, sooner rather than later. By mid-October, the situation at home had deteriorated beyond what I thought possible. Stephen and Melissa had fully taken over the house with my parents' enthusiastic support. Their renovation, originally scheduled for 6 to 8 weeks, had now been extended indefinitely due to complications that Stephen was vague about whenever I asked. I came home one day to find that my parents had purchased a special high chair for Ethan, one that cost nearly $400, according to the box I found in the recycling. This, while they had complained about the cost of Jack's asthma medication the previous week, which my insurance only partially covered, We want Ethan to be comfortable when he eats here, my mother explained when I questioned the expense. Jack needs to breathe, I responded, unable to keep the edge from my voice. My mother looked at me as if I was being unreasonable. Your father and I are on a fixed income, Amanda. We cannot be expected to cover everything for your children. The fact that I paid for all of my children's expenses plus contributed to the household bills apparently did not register with her. Neither did the fact that Stephen and Melissa, both high earners, contributed nothing toward household expenses during their stay. The next incident occurred when Emma was practicing her clarinet for band class. She had been playing for less than 15 minutes when Melissa stormed in. "Can you not do that right now? Ethan is trying to nap, and I have an important call in 10 minutes. Emma apologized and put her instrument away, but later told me tearfully that she had been practicing at the exact time her band teacher had scheduled for their virtual practice session. She had now missed it and would be unprepared for her upcoming evaluation. I tried to speak with Melissa about it, suggesting that we could work out a schedule that accommodated everyone's needs. "My work calls and Ethan's sleep schedule have to take priority," she responded dismissively. "Emma can practice her little hobby any time." I bit my tongue to avoid saying something I would regret. Emma's little hobby was something she was passionate about, and her band teacher had noted she had real talent. But in this household, anything my children did was considered less important than the most trivial needs of Stephen's family. Jack was struggling too. His teacher emailed me concerned about his withdrawal in class and declining grades. My sociable, enthusiastic son had become quiet and anxious. When I asked him about it, he admitted he was having trouble sleeping because he was worried about doing anything wrong at home. Grandma and Grandpa get mad at us for everything he explained, but they never get mad at Ethan, or Uncle Stephen, or Aunt Melissa. I took on extra shifts at the hospital, partly to earn more money for our escape, and partly to avoid the tension at home. My parents interpreted this as me shirking family responsibilities, while Stephen and Melissa seemed glad to have me out of the way. The situation came to a head during a family dinner in late October. My parents had invited several extended family members over, including my Aunt Susan, who had always been kind to me and my children. During the meal, my mother launched into an extended monologue about how gifted Ethan was, how at just 9 months he was clearly advanced for his age. "He is trying to stand already," she boasted. "Stephen was an early walker too. Some children just have that natural athletic ability." She then turned to Jack and added, "It is too bad you did not get that from your father's side. David was always athletic, was not he?" I saw Jack's face crumple before he carefully composed himself. The implication was clear: any positive traits my children possessed came from their father, or were, despite my influence, while Ethan's gifts were clearly inherited from the superior genetic line of my brother. Aunt Susan caught my eye across the table, her expression concerned. After dinner, she pulled me aside. "How long has it been like this?" she asked quietly. "It has always been this way to some degree," I admitted. "But it has gotten much worse since Stephen's family moved in." "This is not healthy for your children, Amanda," she said, echoing what Nancy from work had told me. "They deserve better than to be treated as second-class members of their own family." I nodded, tears threatening. "I am working on it," I assured her. "I have a plan." And I did. In the weeks since my conversation with Nancy, I had been meeting with my realtor friend during my lunch breaks. We had looked at several rental properties, and I had found a small 3-bedroom house just 10 minutes from the hospital and in the same school district as the twins currently attended. The rent was at the upper limit of what I could afford, but I had been approved based on my steady employment history and excellent credit score. I had signed the lease the previous week, but told no one, not even Jack and Emma. I did not want to get their hopes up until everything was finalized. The house would be available for move-in on November 1st, just a week away. I had been secretly ordering essential furniture to be delivered on that date and had set up utilities in my name. My aunt squeezed my hand. "Let me know if you need anything," she said. "I have been concerned about this situation for some time." Her support meant more than she knew. I had begun to question my own perceptions, wondering if I was being oversensitive or jealous as my parents suggested. Having outside confirmation that the situation was as bad as I thought it was, gave me the final push of confidence I needed. The next morning, I overheard Stephen and my father discussing more permanent arrangements. "The contractor says it could be another 3 months," Stephen was saying. "And honestly, with the baby, it might make more sense to just stay through the holidays." "You know you are always welcome," my father replied warmly. "This is your home." I wondered if either of them remembered that I had been told my stay was temporary, that I was expected to find my own place as quickly as possible. The double standard was so glaring, it would have been laughable if it was not breaking my children's hearts. That evening I took the twins out for ice cream after dinner, something we rarely did on weeknights. I wanted some time alone with them, away from the tense atmosphere of the house. "I need you both to know something important," I told them as they enjoyed their treats. "No matter what Grandma and Grandpa say or do, you two are amazing, valuable people. The way they are treating you is not because of anything you have done wrong." Emma, always perceptive, studied my face. "Are we going to move out soon?" I was surprised by her insight. "What makes you ask that?" "You have been working a lot more shifts," she said, "and you seem different lately, less sad and more determined." Out of the mouths of babes. My daughter had seen the change in me before I had fully acknowledged it myself. "Just keep being your wonderful selves for a little bit longer," I told them, not quite ready to reveal my plan. "Can you do that for me?" They both nodded, and I saw a flicker of hope in their eyes that had been missing for too long. When we returned home, Melissa was complaining loudly about the twins' backpacks being in the hallway, despite the fact that Ethan's stroller diaper bag and various toys were scattered throughout the common areas of the house. "Children need to learn to pick up after themselves," she lectured me as if she was the parenting expert and I was a novice. I smiled tightly and helped the kids move their belongings, reminding myself that we only had to endure this for a few more days. I had no idea that the situation was about to explode in a way that would force my hand even sooner than I had planned. The following Tuesday, I was scheduled for a 12-hour shift at the hospital. It was a particularly busy day in the pediatric ward, with 3 new admissions and a staff shortage that had me covering more patients than usual. I barely had time to check my phone during my short lunch break, but when I did, I saw several missed texts from both Jack and Emma. From Jack, "Mom, something weird is happening. Grandpa and Uncle Stephen are moving our stuff." From Emma, "Grandma says we have to move to the basement. This is not fair." From Jack, "Mom, please come home. They took all our things downstairs." From Emma, "I hate it here. The basement is cold and gross and there are spiders." My heart pounded as I quickly called home. No answer. I tried both children's phones. No answer. Finally, I texted Emma, "I will be home as soon as I can. Stay calm. I love you both." I spoke with my supervisor explaining the family emergency. She was understanding and arranged coverage for my remaining 4 hours. Even so, it took me another hour to hand off my patients and complete critical documentation before I could leave. The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. Had my parents really moved my children to the basement? The unfinished, poorly insulated basement that had occasional water seepage when it rained heavily. When I pulled into the driveway, I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself before going inside. I needed to assess the situation clearly before reacting. The scene that greeted me inside the house confirmed my worst fears. Jack and Emma sat huddled together on the living room couch, both with red-rimmed eyes. My mother was in the kitchen with Melissa, both drinking tea as if nothing unusual had happened. Stephen and my father were nowhere to be seen. "What is going on?" I asked, going straight to my children. Emma jumped up and threw her arms around me. "They moved all our stuff to the basement without asking. They said we do not deserve the good rooms upstairs." Jack nodded miserably. "Grandpa said Uncle Stephen's family needs more space because they are more important right now." I hugged them both tightly, my anger building, but keeping my voice calm for their sake. "Let me talk to Grandma and see what is happening." In the kitchen, my mother barely looked up when I entered. "You are home early," she observed. "Why are my children's belongings in the basement?" I asked directly. Melissa sipped her tea. "We needed to make some adjustments to the living arrangements. Stephen and I need a nursery for Ethan plus space for my home office now that my company has gone remote." "So you decided to move Jack and Emma to the unfinished basement without discussing it with me first." My voice was deadly quiet. My mother finally met my eyes. It was the logical solution. The children are older and can adapt more easily than a baby. Besides, our other grandson deserves the best rooms. He is here all day while your children are at school. The casual cruelty of her statement took my breath away. My children deserve a safe, comfortable space just as much as Ethan does. "Do not be so dramatic, Amanda," my mother dismissed. "The basement is perfectly fine. We put their beds down there and everything." "The basement has mold in one corner, gets freezing cold at night, and the ceiling is unfinished," I pointed out. "Not to mention, there is only one small window that does not even open properly." "They will manage," my mother said with finality. "Family means making sacrifices." Apparently, in her mind, family only meant my children should sacrifice never Stephen's. At that moment, my father and brother came in through the back door. "Oh, good. You are home," my father said when he saw me. "We have made some changes that we need to discuss." "Yes, I can see that," I replied, fighting to keep my tone level. "You moved my children's belongings to the basement without my permission." Stephen shrugged. "We need the space upstairs. Ethan is getting more mobile and needs room to develop properly. Plus, Melissa needs a quiet space for her work calls. And my children need a safe, appropriate bedroom," I countered. "The basement is fine," my father said dismissively. "I put in some extra lights and laid down some old carpet scraps. They should be grateful they have a place to stay at all." I stared at him, truly seeing him for the first time. This man who had raised me, who I had spent years trying to please, had just revealed exactly how little he valued me and my children. "Jack has asthma," I reminded them. "The basement is damp and has visible mold. It could trigger a serious attack." "You are overreacting as usual," Stephen said with an eye roll. "Kids are resilient. Melissa and I grew up in much worse conditions. Did not we, honey?" Melissa nodded in agreement, though. I happened to know she had grown up in a 5-bedroom house in an affluent suburb. I looked around at the 4 adults who had made this decision. None of them showed a hint of remorse or understanding. To them, this was perfectly reasonable. The Golden Child's family deserved the best, while my children deserved whatever scraps were left over. I walked back to the living room where Jack and Emma waited anxiously. They looked up at me with such trust, such hope, that I would fix this situation. In that moment, something crystallized within me, a calm certainty about what needed to happen next. I smiled at them, a genuine smile despite the circumstances, and said 3 words that would change everything: pack your bags. They looked confused, but I just nodded encouragingly. Trust me, I said. Pack everything important to you. We will get the rest later. My father had followed me into the living room and overheard. Oh, for heaven's sake, Amanda, stop being so dramatic. No one is asking you to leave. I turned to him, still smiling. No, Dad. You just made it abundantly clear where my children and I stand in this family, and we deserve better. What are you talking about? My father sputtered, as Jack and Emma looked between us with wide eyes. Go on, kids, I said gently. Go pack your backpacks with your most important things. We will come back for the rest tomorrow. As they hurried upstairs, my mother entered the living room. What nonsense is this now? You cannot just leave because things did not go your way. Stephen and Melissa followed Ethan, perched on Stephen's hip. The gang was all here for the showdown, it seemed. This is not about things not going my way, I explained calmly. This is about basic respect and consideration, which has been sorely lacking in this household. We have given you a roof over your head for nearly 2 years, my father exclaimed. How dare you talk about lack of consideration? Yes, you have, I acknowledged. And I have been grateful. I have also contributed financially, done most of the cooking and cleaning, and made sure my children respected your rules and space. But today, you crossed a line. Melissa scoffed. It is just a bedroom rearrangement. You are being ridiculously oversensitive. I turned to her. Is that what you would call it if someone moved your child to an unsuitable space without consulting you first? She had no answer for that. The basement is perfectly adequate, my mother insisted. We raised you and Stephen without all these special accommodations kids seem to need nowadays. The basement has mold, I repeated. Jack has asthma. It is also cold, damp, and has inadequate emergency exits. It is not a legal bedroom by any housing code standard. My father waved his hand dismissively. Those codes are just government overreach. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Safety regulations were now government overreach when they inconvenienced him. But I suspected he would feel differently if he was the one being relegated to substandard accommodations. Where exactly do you think you are going to go? Stephen asked with a smirk. It is not like you have been saving much what with your spending habits. And there it was, the fundamental misunderstanding they all shared. They saw me as financially dependent and irresponsible, despite all evidence to the contrary. They truly believed I had no options, no agency, no ability to stand on my own. That is where you are wrong, I said quietly. I have been saving since the day I moved in here. I have been working extra shifts and building my emergency fund. And 3 weeks ago I signed a lease on a house not far from here. The stunned silence was deeply satisfying. My mother recovered first. You were planning to leave without telling us, she asked, voice trembling with manufactured hurt. I was planning to give you proper notice next week, I clarified. The house is not available until November 1st. But today's events have accelerated my timeline. You cannot be serious, Stephen said. Where are you going to stay until then? That is no longer any of your concern, I replied. In truth, I had already spoken with Nancy from work, who had offered her guest room for a few days if needed. My father's face had turned an alarming shade of red. After everything we have done for you, this is how you repay us. By sneaking around behind our backs and then storming out over a minor disagreement. Minor disagreement, I repeated incredulously. You moved my children's belongings to an unsafe space without my knowledge or consent. You told them to their faces that they do not deserve the same comfort and consideration as their cousin. That is not minor, Dad. That is a fundamental statement about how you value them and me. Emma and Jack came back downstairs, each with a backpack and a small bag. Emma was clutching her clarinet case, and Jack had his favorite drawing supplies and the stuffed dragon he had slept with since he was 3. "We are ready, Mom," Emma said, her voice stronger than I had heard it in weeks. "This is ridiculous," my mother declared. "You cannot seriously be leaving right now." "We are," I confirmed. "We will come back tomorrow to get the rest of our things when everyone has had a chance to calm down." "If you walk out that door, do not expect to be welcomed back with open arms," my father threatened. I looked at him sadly. "I stopped expecting that a long time ago, Dad." Stephen stepped forward, suddenly realizing this was actually happening. "Come on, sis, let us talk about this rationally. There is no need to make a scene in front of the kids. My children have already been shown exactly where they stand in this family's hierarchy," I responded. "There is nothing more to discuss tonight." I helped Jack and Emma put their bags in the car, while my family watched from the porch, expressions ranging from anger to disbelief. They had been so certain of their power over me, so confident in my dependence, that they could not process the reality of my departure. As I started the car, my mother rushed over to my window. "Amanda, please. You are overreacting. Come back inside, and we will figure something out." "We will talk tomorrow," I said firmly, "when I come to get our things." "But where will you go?" she asked, genuine concern finally breaking through her indignation. "Somewhere where my children are valued," I answered simply and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I could see Jack and Emma looking back at the house that had been our home for nearly 2 years. Not with sadness, I realized, but with relief. "Are we really moving to our own house?" Jack asked cautiously. "Almost," I told him. "We have a house waiting for us, but we cannot move in until next week. Tonight we are going to stay with my friend Nancy from work." "Is it because of what Grandpa and Grandma did?" Emma asked. I chose my words carefully. "It is because we deserve to live somewhere where everyone is treated with respect and kindness. I have been planning for us to move out for a while now, but yes, what happened today made me realize we needed to leave sooner." "I did not like how they talked about us," Jack said quietly. "Like we were not important." My heart broke a little at his words. "You are both incredibly important," I assured them. "And anyone who cannot see that does not deserve to have you in their lives." When we arrived at Nancy's house, she welcomed us warmly, having already prepared her guest room with an air mattress for the kids, alongside the queen bed I would use. She had even bought ice cream and rented a movie for us to watch together. As the twins settled in picking at their ice cream with subdued enthusiasm, Nancy pulled me aside. "I am proud of you," she said simply. "It takes courage to set boundaries with family." "I just wish I had done it sooner," I admitted, "before they hurt my kids like this." "You are doing it now," she pointed out, "and that is what matters." That night, as Jack and Emma slept beside me in the unfamiliar room, I felt a strange mixture of emotions: sadness for what should have been anger, at how we had been treated, anxiety about the future, but underneath it all, a powerful sense of peace. For the first time in years, I had stood up for myself and my children without wavering or second-guessing. Tomorrow would bring new challenges: retrieving our belongings, weathering the inevitable emotional manipulation, finalizing arrangements for our new home. But tonight, watching my children sleep peacefully, I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right decision. We were finally breaking free. The next morning, I called in to use a personal day at work. Nancy offered to let the twins stay with her while I went back to my parents' house to gather our belongings, but I declined. "They need to see this through," I explained. "It is important for them to know we are doing this together." We arrived at my parents' house at 10 in the morning, when I knew everyone would be home. My father answered the door with a scowl that softened slightly when he saw the twins. "Come to apologize for your tantrum?" he asked me. "No," I replied evenly. "We have come to get our things." His face hardened again. "Your mother has been upset all night because of your dramatic exit." "I am sorry she is upset," I said, and I meant it. Despite everything, I did not want to hurt my parents. I just needed to protect my children. But we are still moving out. He stepped aside reluctantly to let us in. My mother was sitting in the living room, eyes red-rimmed from crying or lack of sleep. Stephen and Melissa were conspicuously absent. "Where are Stephen and Melissa?" I asked. "They took Ethan to the park," my mother replied. "They thought it would be less stressful if they were not here while you got your things." At least they had shown that much consideration. "Jack, Emma, go pack up your room," I instructed. "Remember what we talked about in the car. Just pack what you need and love. We can replace the rest." As they headed upstairs, my mother turned to me. "I cannot believe you are doing this to us." "I am not doing anything to you," I corrected her. "I am doing something for my children and myself." "We have given you everything," she insisted. "A place to stay when you had nowhere to go, help with the children, emotional support during your divorce." "And I have been grateful," I acknowledged. "But that does not mean my children should be treated as less valuable than Ethan." "We never said that," she protested. "You did not have to say it. Your actions made it perfectly clear." My father joined us, pacing the room. "This is about Stephen, is not it? You have always been jealous of him." I shook my head. "This is not about Stephen. This is about Jack and Emma being moved to an unsafe basement without my knowledge or consent. This is about you explicitly stating that Ethan deserves the better rooms simply because he is Stephen's son." "You are twisting our words," my mother accused. "Am I?" You said, and I quote, "Our other grandson deserves the best rooms." What exactly did you mean by that, if not that my children deserve less? She had no answer. I went upstairs to help the twins pack their belongings. Most of their clothes fit into 2 large suitcases I had brought. Jack carefully wrapped his favorite books and the science kit he had received for his birthday. Emma packed her sports equipment and the jewelry box her father had given her last Christmas. When we came back downstairs with the first load, my father was waiting by the door. "Where exactly are you going?" he demanded. "This mysterious house you claim to have rented?" "We are staying with a friend until our house is ready next week," I explained, though I did not owe him this information. "And how exactly do you plan to afford rent on your nurse's salary?" he asked skeptically. The condescension in his tone made something snap inside me. I put down the bags I was carrying and faced him directly. "Dad, I make $65,000 a year as a pediatric nurse. I have excellent credit, minimal debt, and I have been saving systematically for nearly 2 years. I am fully capable of providing for my family without your help." He looked genuinely surprised. It occurred to me that he had no idea what I earned or how I managed my finances. He had simply assumed I was struggling financially because that fit his narrative about me. "The rental market is extremely tight right now," my mother interjected. "How did you even find a place?" "I have been looking for months," I said. "I have friends and connections. Just because I did not tell you about my plans does not mean I did not have them." We made several trips to load everything into my car. My parents watched silently, the reality of our departure finally sinking in. When we had packed everything we wanted to take, I did one final walkthrough to make sure we had not forgotten anything important. In the kitchen, I found my mother making coffee, her movements mechanical. "We are heading out now," I told her. She turned to me, eyes welling with tears. "I do not understand why you are doing this. We are family." "Yes, we are," I agreed. "And that is why this hurts so much. Families should make each other feel valued and respected. Jack and Emma have not felt that here for a long time." "That is not true," she protested weakly. "Mom, yesterday you told them they did not deserve the same quality of accommodations as their cousin. How do you think that made them feel?" She looked away. "We did not mean it like that." "How else could you have meant it?" She had no answer. As we prepared to leave, my father made one last attempt. "This is a mistake, Amanda. You are letting your pride get in the way of what is best for your children." "No, Dad. For the first time in a long time, I am putting what is best for my children ahead of everything else, including your approval." Jack and Emma said stilted goodbyes to their grandparents. I could see they were conflicted, having been taught to respect and love these people who had hurt them so casually. As we drove away, Emma asked, "Will we ever see Grandma and Grandpa again?" "Yes," I assured her. "But things will be different. We will visit on our terms when we are treated with respect." The next few days at Nancy's house were peaceful. The twins seemed lighter, joking and playing in ways I had not seen in months. I took a day off to finalize details for our new home, meeting with the landlord to get the keys early so we could move in our belongings before the official lease start date. The house was small but perfect for us. 3 bedrooms, a tiny backyard, and a kitchen with lots of natural light. It was within our school district, so the twins would not have to change schools, and close enough to the hospital that my commute would actually be shorter than from my parents' house. On Friday, we moved in our belongings. Nancy and several other co-workers came to help, turning what could have been a stressful day into something that felt like a celebration. By evening, the beds were set up, the kitchen was functional, and the living room had enough furniture for us to sit comfortably. That night, after we had ordered pizza, and the twins had gone to bed in their own rooms for the first time in nearly 2 years, I sat alone in my new living room and finally let myself cry. Not from sadness, though there was some of that, but from relief and a bittersweet sense of accomplishment. My phone had been buzzing with messages from my parents all day, ranging from angry accusations to tearful pleas to come home. I had responded only once to let them know we were safe and settled, and that I would contact them when I was ready to talk further. The following Monday, my parents showed up unannounced at our new house. I had just returned from dropping the twins at school and was preparing to leave for my shift. "How did you find our address?" I asked, as I reluctantly invited them in. "Your Aunt Susan told us," my father admitted. "She thought we should try to reconcile." I made them coffee, watching as they surveyed our modest but comfortable new home. "It is smaller than I expected," my mother commented. "It is perfect for the 3 of us," I replied. "Amanda, we want you to come home," my father said, getting straight to the point. "This has gone on long enough." "This is our home now," I said firmly. "But the children need their grandparents," my mother insisted. "And their uncle and cousin." "What they need is to be treated with respect and love," I countered. "When you can provide that consistently, you are welcome to be part of their lives." "We have always loved them," my mother protested. "Love is not just a feeling, Mom. It is how you treat people. It is the choices you make that show what you truly value." They stayed for nearly an hour, cycling through guilt trips, appeals to family unity, and finally grudging acknowledgement that perhaps they had been insensitive. "We did not realize how it looked from your perspective," my father conceded. "We just thought we were helping Stephen and Melissa through a difficult time." And I understand that, I said. But you help them at the expense of my children's well-being and safety. That is something I cannot overlook. When they left, we had reached a tentative understanding they would respect our new living situation and we would visit for Sunday dinner in 2 weeks. It was a small step, but it was something. Over the next several weeks, news of our departure spread through the extended family. Most were supportive, having witnessed the favoritism firsthand at various family gatherings. Aunt Susan, in particular, became a regular visitor, bringing homemade cookies and genuine interest in the twins' lives. At work, I received an unexpected opportunity, a promotion to charge nurse on the pediatric floor, with a significant salary increase. The hours would be more regular, with fewer overnight shifts, giving me more time with Jack and Emma. Meanwhile, I heard through the family grapevine that Stephen and Melissa were having difficulties. Without me there to help with household chores and childcare, in a pinch they were finding it challenging to manage their own responsibilities. My mother, now in her 60s, was tired from trying to keep up with an active baby, while also maintaining the house without my assistance. When we did attend that Sunday dinner 2 weeks later, the atmosphere was strained but civil. Stephen and Melissa were notably less smug, perhaps finally realizing that my presence had actually made their lives easier in ways they had taken for granted. Most importantly, Jack and Emma were happier than I had seen them in years. Jack's teacher reported that his focus and participation had improved dramatically, and Emma was thriving in her clarinet lessons, practicing daily in her own room without fear of being shushed or criticized. One evening, as I tucked Emma into bed, she said something that confirmed I had made the right decision. "I like our house, Mom," she said sleepily. "I feel like I can breathe here." Out of all the validation I could have received, my daughter's simple statement meant the most. We had created a home where my children could breathe freely, both literally and figuratively, and that was worth everything we had gone through to get here. 6 months after our abrupt departure from my parents' home, our lives had transformed in ways I could scarcely have imagined. Our small rental house had become a true home, filled with laughter, artwork on the refrigerator, and the comfortable chaos of family life. Jack and Emma had blossomed, their confidence returning, as they settled into an environment where they were valued and respected. My promotion to charge nurse had come with not only a better schedule and increased salary, but also new responsibilities that challenged and fulfilled me professionally. For the first time in my adult life, I felt like I was thriving rather than just surviving. Our relationship with my parents had evolved into something cautiously cordial. The Sunday dinners had become a monthly tradition with clear boundaries established and mostly respected. My mother had slowly begun to acknowledge the favoritism that had pervaded our family dynamics, though my father still struggled to see his role in what had happened. "I have been thinking a lot about last fall," my mother said during one of her visits to our home. She had started coming by occasionally on her own, without my father. I did not realize how much we were hurting Jack and Emma. "What made you see it?" I asked, genuinely curious about her evolution. She sighed, looking older than her years. "After you left, nothing was the same. Stephen and Melissa stayed for another month, but without you there, I was overwhelmed trying to maintain the house and help with Ethan. I started to realize how much you had been doing, how much I had taken you for granted. It was the closest thing to an apology I had received, and I accepted it as such." And then she continued, "Stephen and Melissa started arguing all the time, about childcare, about the renovation that never seemed to end, about money. They moved back to their house before Christmas, even though the work was not finished. I was not surprised. Stephen and Melissa had always presented a united front in public, but I had glimpsed cracks in their relationship. Without the buffer of my parents' constant approval, and my practical support, those cracks had apparently widened. "How are they doing now?" I asked, more out of politeness than genuine concern. "They are in couples counseling," my mother admitted. "Your father thinks it is nonsense, but I think it might help them. Melissa went back to work full-time, and they are struggling with the childcare arrangements." I nodded, feeling a twinge of sympathy despite everything. Parenting was challenging under the best circumstances, and their relationship had never seemed built on the strongest foundation. The most significant change, however, was in my children. Jack's anxiety had all but disappeared, and his natural creativity had reemerged. He had joined an after-school art program and was thriving under the mentorship of a patient teacher who recognized his talent. Emma had made the advanced band at school and was talking about trying out for the soccer team in the spring. One evening, as we sat together working on a puzzle, Jack had selected a quiet family ritual we had established in our new home. Emma broached the subject of her grandparents. "Mom, why do you think Grandma and Grandpa treated us differently than Ethan?" she asked carefully, fitting a piece into place. I considered my response carefully. I think people sometimes have fixed ideas about others that make it hard for them to see clearly. Grandma and Grandpa always saw Uncle Stephen as special and deserving of extra attention. When he had Ethan, they transferred those feelings to him. "But we are their grandchildren too," Jack pointed out. "Yes, you are," I agreed. "And they do love you. They just did not know how to show it equally or fairly." "Is that why we left?" Emma asked. "Because they were not fair." "We left because everyone deserves to be treated with respect and kindness," I explained. When that was not happening, we needed to create our own space where we could all thrive. Jack nodded thoughtfully. "I like it better here anyway. At Grandma and Grandpa's house, I always felt like I was in the way." "You are never in the way here," I assured him. "This is your home, and you belong here exactly as you are." The conversation shifted to other topics, but I was struck by how maturely they were processing what had happened. Children were remarkably resilient when given safety, consistency, and honest communication. In April, an unexpected opportunity arose. A small 3-bedroom house in our neighborhood went up for sale, priced just within my reach thanks to my promotion and careful saving. After consulting with a mortgage broker and reviewing my finances, I made an offer. To my surprise and delight, it was accepted. Becoming a homeowner had been a distant dream, when we left my parents' house, something I hoped for in the nebulous future. Now, less than a year later, it was becoming reality. The house needed some cosmetic updates, but was structurally sound and in a great location. Most importantly, it would be ours. When I shared the news with the twins, their excitement was contagious. They immediately began planning how they would decorate their rooms, what color we should paint the front door, where we would plant a garden in the small backyard. "Can we get a dog once we move in?" Jack asked hopefully. "We will see," I replied, not ready to commit, but warming to the idea. A dog would complete our little family in many ways. The process of buying the house brought my father back into our lives in an unexpected way. Despite our still strained relationship, he had experience with home buying and offered to look over the inspection report with me. "The roof has at least 5 years left," he said, as we sat at my kitchen table reviewing the documents. "But you will want to budget for replacing the water heater sooner rather than later." His practical advice was helpful, and I appreciated that he was making an effort to support me without controlling or criticizing my decisions. It was a small but significant shift in our dynamic. "I am proud of you, Amanda," he said unexpectedly, as he was leaving. "Buying a house on your own is no small accomplishment." The words I had longed to hear for most of my life caught me off guard. "Thank you, Dad," I managed to reply. "I know I have not always been Fair, he continued haltingly. Your mother and I have been talking a lot about how we handled things. I cannot change the past, but I would like to do better going forward. It was not a full apology, but coming from my proud, stubborn father, it was monumental. I would like that too, I told him, honestly. The day we closed on the house, Jack and Emma were in school. I signed the papers alone, but took a photo of the keys to show them when they got home. As I stood in the empty living room of our new house, my house, I felt a surge of emotion so powerful it brought tears to my eyes. 2 years ago, I had been a newly divorced mother, uncertain about my future and dependent on my parents' conditional support. Now, I was a homeowner advancing in my career and, most importantly, providing my children with the stable, loving home they deserved. The journey had been painful at times, forcing me to confront hard truths about my family and myself. I had to learn that setting boundaries was not selfish but necessary, that standing up for my children meant sometimes walking away from toxic situations, and that my worth was not determined by others' perceptions. We moved into our new home on a sunny Saturday in May, with help from friends, colleagues, and yes, even my parents. The atmosphere was celebratory as we arranged furniture, unpacked boxes, and ordered pizza for everyone who had helped. By evening, when only my parents remained, we sat together on my new back porch, watching Jack and Emma explore the yard. This is a good home, my mother said quietly. You have done well, Amanda. Thank you, I replied, accepting the compliment without qualification or doubt. As the sun set on our first day in our new home, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The pain of that October day, when my children had been deemed less worthy than their cousin, had transformed into the catalyst for positive change. Sometimes the greatest betrayals lead to the most necessary departures. What had seemed like an ending, the day we packed our bags and left my parents' house, had actually been a beginning of self-respect, of true independence, of showing my children what it meant to stand up for yourself and for those you love. Family, I had learned, was not just about blood or obligation. It was about mutual respect, consistent kindness, and the choice to value each person for who they truly were. My children and I had created our own family unit, strong and supportive, and we had opened our circle to include those who treated us with the dignity we deserved. As I tucked the twins into bed that night in their very own rooms, in our very own house, I felt a deep sense of peace. We had come through the storm and found ourselves on solid ground at last. Have you ever had to make a difficult decision to protect your family's well-being? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to hear more real-life stories of overcoming family challenges. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is pack your bags and create the life you and your children deserve. Thank you for listening, and may you always find the courage to stand up for what is right, especially when it is difficult.